Hey, one of the biggest questions that guitar students have is how can I change from chord to chord faster? And I have a few ideas. Of course, it's going to be repetition, but I've got a couple of ideas. But first of all, I'll say if you have a song in mind, that kind of pulls you through. If you have a goal where like we're gonna maybe get together in a month and play a couple of songs, so have them down. That will motivate you too, of course. Okay, let's look at a couple of ideas. I'm going to look at the A chord again, which I promote middle, ring, pinky, which you're probably getting sick of that, but notice how you can pivot to C, keeping middle finger in place. So you just want to look for things like that. All right, let me mess around with that a little bit. A to A minor, keeping these two in place here. Back to A minor. Here's A major, A suspended 4, fourth, A suspended 4, A sus 4. A add 2 or A sus 2. Always those two. So those two fingers, again, I'm going to pivot to C, now to A minor. So in that case, you can keep these two fingers anchored on like the A minor 7 shape. I might have hopped that a little bit. I was spacing out actually. Okay, these two fingers can go to E minor. And this is covered in my chord book on the first page, Chord Yoga, how E minor goes to A sus 2 or A2. You can do A minor to E major. So here's one. I'm kind of drifting a little bit, but A minor to D7. Again, keeping middle finger planted, or pointer, sorry. So look for one finger that could stay the same. Here's the old D to G, keeping ring finger in place. So you just kind of pivot off the ring finger. Let's see, there's a couple more. Let's check C to G7. When you go to G7, it's really important that you get that F note to ring out. First string, first fret, F. That note has to really cut through. If that note is muted, a lot of times students will kind of play it like, it's like, I don't understand what you're playing. You gotta kind of articulate that F. So C, they just spread out and back in. How about C to F major 7? You can keep the pointer finger in place. How about a G to a C, add 9? Which could go to a D. And there's also a weird E minor 7 like this. Plus an A, a C, and the G. These could stay in place for a few chords. E minor, G, C, D, A. There's quite a few songs that uses that idea. All right, one more thing. Watch this A. watch it split out to a B7. You could keep ring finger in place. That's kind of weird. I think I would want to pick it up. A to B7. That's a little challenge. See if you can keep your ring finger on 3rd string, 2nd fret A. Or maybe practice it in little pieces like but look how A is kind of like potentially just a folded up B7. So they just, whoa, it's starting to bug me. A is just a compact B7 waiting to split out. And the pointer finger comes in. One more. B7 to E7. Middle finger stays the same. So yeah, notice that. But some chords are just a wild, I call it fruit basket upset. If you go from A to D, there's no note in that keeps them together. A, D, A, E, A. Practice that a little bit. How about, let's look at like G to E minor. What I would think about is the middle finger going from out here to over there. And maybe look at that path. Notice ring finger was here. On the G, it goes in there for E minor. So really, it's a lot of intricate maneuvers you have to master. So anybody that says, hey, I just want to learn the chords, you know, just let's keep it basic. I'm like, wow, okay. That's actually not that easy. But, you know, if you kind of hit this every day and maybe think about it a little bit in that, you know, just looking for things that are in common between chords, notes, and find those. Let's look at the C chord for a second. Here's C, just C major 7. Just for an easy change. If C is stressing you out, start with C major 7 and take off, and then that's like a 3, 2, 0, 0, 0. Then add the pointer. You can play around with adding the pinky on the 1st string, 3rd fret. Or so you can get a little melodic motion in there. Kind of conforms to the scale. So yeah, just look for notes that each chord shares, and maybe you can keep one finger planted. That might save you a little time, but otherwise you kind of have to plot the path of each finger between each chord and kind of maybe isolate those moves and study them individually. I always say, you know, with my students, we start with some chords at every lesson, warm up and work through my chord book. Then we move over to a little bit of sight reading. And if they're really struggling with the chords, I'm like, don't worry, let's just do our sight reading, which is really humbling, and those simple notes, that kind of stuff. But I say humble because it means two things. One, it's simple and sounds basic, but it will still catch you. So humble means two things. That it will humiliate you too. But it also helps your dexterity as far as pressing down right on the tips of the fingers and getting that precise sound. So if chords are frustrating, move over to sight reading and start your practice with those two things, and then you can move over to whatever, some riffs or scales or songs, or do something more to your taste. But scales are great. I can't overemphasize, when people want to discuss music theory and they don't know what a C major scale is, we can't really get very far. So you should be working on C major, G major, D major, A major, E major, and maybe F major. Start with those, get into B major, then we'll get into like B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat. Am I missing anything? G flat. Get into your flats and sharp scale, F sharp. But yeah, you kind of have to know those scales, and that will help you with your dexterity. Then come back to your chords and see where you're at, and keep working on songs. So it's a lot of things happening at once, but if you kind of make a list of what you want to do, I would just try to keep your sight reading moving forward and just be super aware of your chords and your fingering. Try to build really good fingering. Watch out for weird, old-fashioned bad info. I hope I'm not passing any bad habits along. But there you go. That's kind of what I do with my students. So I just wanted to help a few people out that are working on switching chords. And so I think every other skill, such as sight reading or scales, will help with your chords. All right, there you go. I must prepare for my night gig. See ya.